Welcome to FE Fitness, and thank you for joining us for our first installment of our video exercise tutorial series. This installment we will be going over lower hypertrophy modalities and exercise programs. The first exercise program we're going to cover today is entitled Glutes of Gold. And in this exercise program, we utilize two exercises that will enable you to open the hip from the front, as well as increase the drive and recruitment of flexion to the glutes in the back. So let's get started with that and go over the first exercise, which I'm sure most of you are well acquainted with, the back squat. Now, the biggest thing about a back squat being performed correctly is understanding the stabilizing components that are required to different elements of the movement itself. Too often, most people are going to the gym and they will simply just drop the hips down to a squat, not concerning themselves with where their chest is, their focal point is, let alone what's actually occurring in the pelvis. Now, it's very important to remember that without stability and mobility integrated with the right sequence, you're just not going to be able to grow any muscle. More likely, you're just going to get yourself injured. So with a back squat, what we're going to first look at is the positioning of the knee to relation to the ankle, all the way up to the focal point and to the skull. Today, we are very fortunate to have our model, Mikhail St. Catherine, a very well-versed trainer here in London, as well as a great athlete in his own right, to perform the back squat, to which I will be narrating certain components behind the coaching. Mikhail, thank you, and join us. So walking up to the squat, the first thing we're going to consider once Mikhail's unracked the barbell off of the frame is the position of his thoracic extension in relation to his neck. So we want Mikhail to firstly lengthen and lift up his collarbone as high as he can to the ceiling, whilst dropping his chin down to the collarbone. So the collarbone goes high, chin goes low. He fixes a focal point in that position where his abs are best recruited. Once he's done that, he'll initiate the movement with knee flexion, gently pushing knees forward, integrating stability and control access by activating the hamstrings. Once he's done that, he'll initiate hip flexion, driving the hips back and then down, whilst elevating the rib cage at the same time, opening up the angle between the collarbone and the chin, driving back up again into hip extension. And once again, starting from the top, we open through the knee, pull down through the hip, open up the rib cage, drive up to the collarbone, extend through the hip, and lock up the knee. And one more time, unlock the knee, drive into the hip, extend the rib cage, drive up to the collarbone, extend the pelvis, lock the knee. Thank you, Mikhail. We start the second exercise of the workout regime, Glutes of Gold, which is a front foot elevated split squat by standing with both feet on a step-up block. In this position, Mikhail will elevate his chest whilst dropping his chin down, creating a neutral lock in his abdominals and spinal extensors, and also enabling a new focal point of which to focus on during the entirety of the movement. Mikhail will take a deep, long step back whilst maintaining that focal point, position himself into a stable position, and rotating ever so slightly into the pelvis to make sure both points of the pelvis are aligned. The movement starts off by driving the front knee forward into flexion, enough so that it's in line with the toe. Once it starts to become in line with the toe, the hip will sink down, the rib cage will lift up, creating what we call a tug of war in the center of the body. Importantly to note is the position of the ankle of the back leg. As Mikhail drives out the movement, that ankle is flexed into plantar flexion, pushing into the floor, creating more tension in the glute. As he goes down, the ankle subsides, relaxes, and allows a stretch in the flexors of the toes, thus enabling a further stretch up the chain into his hip flexors. Thank you very much, Mikhail. Thank you for watching FE Fitness. There are many more episodes to come. Forge your status.